Hello all, welcome to NET JRF Scholars YouTube channel. Today in this video we are going to look at the most important topics in research aptitude. As we all know, exam is very close, so we cannot read or focus on all the topics. So we need to be focused on the most important topics. So in this video I am going to give you the most important topics in research aptitude, and I will also discuss what need to be focused in every topic. So let's get started. So the first and foremost important topic is steps of research. So what is the flow of the research? So how it is begins, how it is ends. They usually give the statements and ask you to arrange in a order based on the research steps. So that is the one possibility that they can ask. Okay, so the steps are research problem. First you find out the research problem, then you will do literature review. After that you will develop a hypothesis, and then you form the research design and you collect the data. There are two types of data, primary data and the secondary data, and after collecting the data you will analyze the data, and once you analyze you will find a conclusion, okay, for your research problem. After all you start writing the report. Okay, then the next important topic is layout of the thesis. So there are some prior pages in the layout which are very important to be presented in a thesis. So the first page of a thesis called title page, and after that we have thesis certificate and acknowledgement. Then we have abstract of our thesis and contents, what are the contents, and list of figures, list of tables, and followed by nomenclatures or the abbreviations. Okay, so when it comes to the main thesis, the first chapter will be on introduction and the second chapter is on literature review. Third chapter is about the methodology or about the experiment. In the fourth chapter you will discuss your study, and in the fifth chapter you will give the results and the discussion of your study, and you conclude your study in the seventh chapter. Whereas the seventh is the references, you will provide the references, and the eighth is appendix. So you will give the the data that is used collected in your research. Okay, so research steps and the layouts of the thesis are the most important. Okay, with respect to the layout of the thesis, they will ask about the structure. Okay, so what all is in the thesis page, what all is in the title page, so what do you write in the literature review, it's all asked. The next important topics are methods of research. So in methods of research there are many types in the methods of research. The most important types are experiment research, action research, and these two are very important. And apart from the traditional ways of research, there are three types which UGC NET is nowadays focusing on: is hermeneutic research, normative research, and grounded theory of the research. These three also very important and recently asked in the paper 1 examination. And apart from these three, action research and experimental research are the mostly asked topics. So please do revise these 5 research methods. And there are many hypotheses as well, so out of which null hypothesis is very important and alternative hypothesis most important. So there are types as well in the null hypothesis. Okay, they are called type 1 and a type 2. Okay, also have a look at these types of null hypotheses. So these are the other types, but they are not very important. Only revise the topics on null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Next is research misconduct. There are three research misconduct, that is fabrication, that is like modification of the data, and falsification, okay, like giving any false information or adding any false information into the data, and the plagiarism. These are the three misconducts, and there are types in plagiarism as well. Nowadays they are also asking on the types, so read as well on the types of plagiarism. Okay, as I said, there are two types in the null hypothesis: type 1 error, which is also called alpha error, and the type 2 error, which is also called beta error. So these two are very important. They'll definitely ask a question on hypothesis. Okay, definitely they're going to ask around like 4 to 5 questions out of total 100 questions in a phase, in an examination, like in June 2026. And next important topic is sampling. As we all know, there are two types of sampling: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So in probability sampling, we have four types. One is simple probability sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and stratified sampling. And in non-probability sampling, we have convenience sampling, judgment sampling or purposive sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. So sampling is also very important. Please read on sampling, especially probability sampling is very, very important. So definitely read on the probability sampling. Then we have a scale of measurements. Okay, there are four scales: nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and the ratio scale. So they'll just ask match with this. So nominal scales into the description. So remember this in the order so that you can easily identify. In the nominal scale, you only have classification. In the ordinal scale, you have classification and the order. In the interval scale, you have classification, order, and equal units. In the ratio scale, we have classification, order, equal units, and absolute zero. Next, reliability of the test and the validity of a test. So reliability talks about the consistency of a test, whereas the validity talks about the accuracy of a test. Okay, so there are four types where you can test the reliability of a test, and there are some four types as well to test the validity. But there are two major types of validity. One is external validity and the internal validity. With respect to reliability, you have to read on what is test retest method, inter-rater inter-observer method, alternative or parallel form method, and split off method. Out of this, split off method is very, very important. And these are the two. There are two types of X-factor research designs. So one is prospective and the other one is retrospective. After this, retrospective is very, very important. They ask the statement 1 and statement 2 and they reverse or exchange the definitions of these two research designs. And we have a triangulation method. Okay, there are many types you can perform triangulation in the research. Okay, triangulation by method, triangulation by investigator, triangulation by theory, triangulation by data source, and triangulation by data analysis. And the other important topics, okay, are pilot study. You need to understand what is pilot study, why it will perform, and it is most important. And then we have questionnaire. Okay, there are two types of questionnaire: close-ended and open-ended. Then we have interviews. What is structured, unstructured, and semi-structured? Just understand, read once. It is more than enough. If you read these topics once, it is more than enough to remember. And case study. What is case study and why we do case studies, and the most important topics are MLA and APA. These are very, very important. So they'll basically give you an example citation. Okay, they will ask you to identify whether it is APA or MLA or Chicago. Okay, these three are the very important citations. So citation types. So please focus on especially APA and MLA. The major difference between two to identify is the year is marked in the closed bracket in the APA as shown here, whereas in the MLA it is not with the closed brackets. Okay, that is the major difference between APA and MLA. And what is positional paper? It is very important. And there are two types of tests, that is parametric test and non-parametric test. With respect to this, they basically give some types. There are some types in these two tests, and they'll give the types. Okay, they'll give one or two or three types and ask whether it is parametric or non-parametric or any other thing, or they'll ask you to identify the parametric and non-parametric test by giving a list. Okay, so these are very important, especially the parametric test types are very, very important. And difference between the bibliography versus the reference is also very important. And what is Scopus? Scopus basically a database, so it's an international database. You can also study such databases. Okay, so these topics are very, very important for June 2026 session. Okay, please focus on these topics and revise these topics. Thank you.